Hare Krishna. Please support our channel by taking 1 second of your precious time to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, today is a very special day. It's a pratipat of Gaura Paksha or Shukla Paksha of Govinda Mas, and for some reason three of our acharyas, two of our acharyas and one of the very dear leaders of our ISKCON passed away on this day. So it's disappearance day of Tirobhava Mahotsav of Rasikananda, who is a very prominent preacher and the most prominent disciple of Shyamananda Pandit, one of the trio of followers of the second generation of devotees, right? Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, and Shyamananda. Rasikananda was the next generation, very, very special personality, divine personality, who made elephants chant the holy name. And we'll speak about him or read about him some other time. Also, today is a disappearance day of one of our prominent acharyas in our Guru Parampara, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. And of course, he is considered Shiksha Guru. He's a Shiksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he is the one who discovered and confirmed the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya at the very, very advanced age. He leaped out of his basket. He was carried on the head of his servant, and he was dancing in ecstasy on the place of Lord Chaitanya's birth in Yoga Pit. And again, his biography or reading from his life and activities we'll do some other time. But today is also the day on the March of 15th, 2002, where His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj passed away, and it was exactly the same day. So it also signifies his special position. He left with two of the most illustrious acharyas in our Guru Parampara. He left on the same day. It's a very auspicious day to leave this world, though it creates a lot of pain for devotees, especially for disciples and Shiksha disciples and friends who were very dependent on devotee association, or in this case on Maharaj's association. So today's podcast I want to dedicate to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And I just received an email, and we all received this email by Ananda Tirtha Prabhu, which he does a very, very detailed recollections of the day. And I was here also personally. It was my first time in Mayapur. I came in 2002, and I was here. I witnessed, I saw Tamal Krishna Maharaj and heard his lectures, and then I was there on the morning when the announcement came. So I want to read this recollection by Ananda Tirtha Prabhu, and also maybe read a little bit about Tamal Krishna Maharaj's own words from Servant of the Servant, how he start helping Srila Prabhupada, how he joined the movement. Of course, just recently I read the whole Servant of the Servant, and also I've heard a lot of last conversation, 1977, just days before Srila Prabhupada passed away. And it's amazing that Tamal Krishna Maharaj, from the beginning of the movement, was the one whom Srila Prabhupada singled out as a pillar of this movement and depended on him on so many important projects. He made him first GBC for India, and he depended on him to expand his Indian project, especially Juhu, but also Vrindavan and Mayapur. And Then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, of course, in the beginning, he make Los Angeles temple flourish. He built up amazing preaching and book distribution and Sankirtan and collection in Los Angeles temple, although he joined in San Francisco. Then he went to London and he helped the whole yatra there. He helped original couples of Shyamasundar Prabhu, Malati Mataji, Mukunda, now Goswami, and Janaki, and Guru Das and Yamuna, the original three couples who went to London. He came on the urging of Srila Prabhupada and helped them also there. Then Srila Prabhupada wanted him to raise and help with German and French yatra, and he spent some time in Germany, in Hamburg. Then he went to Paris and he was very vigorously preaching there. And then from there he left to India and he stayed in India for a long time and did a lot of, it was very, very demanding preaching, very demanding zone for him. And at some point he just, when he met Vishnujan Maharaj, who came to visit India and heard about his preaching there, he just wanted to go and join him. First, they tried to also get Vishnujan Maharaj, I think, to London. But Srila Prabhupada said, no, it was before they went to India. Anyway, so then Tamal Krishna Maharaj pleaded with Srila Prabhupada and he went back to America. And of course he joined a small Radha Damodar party and helped it to grow to tremendous book distribution machine with a lot of buses and hundreds of devotees and massive book distribution as was never seen before. I'm not sure if it's matched with what we are doing now, but I didn't get the statistics. But anyway, it was a massive preaching. Of course, also at that time he. Before that, in France, he married, and then he went to India and he took sannyas. And then from that time, he was known as Tamal Krishna Goswami. Anyway, so I'm definitely, though I just saw Maharaj a couple times, I'm definitely fascinated by his personality and by how dear and how close of associate of Srila Prabhupada he was. And of course, the last days, he was always there. Srila Prabhupada would ask him about everything, ask his opinion. And actually, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the one who induced Prabhupada to travel this last time to London. Actually, he wanted to make the whole world tour, but then Srila Prabhupada never went further than London. Then they came back to Vrindavan. Then they were making plans to go to Mayapur. And then they were making plans to do big Padayatra, Govardhan Parikrama. It's amazing just to read those pastimes, the last pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, and see how much his disciples were, in pain. And one time, actually, Tamal Krishna Maharaj burst out to Srila Prabhupada, said, Prabhupada, why are you doing this to us? Why are you creating so much pain and turmoil? And you pushing us to the limit, because Srila Prabhupada was insisting he wanted to go to Govardhan. It was actually settled. Lokanath Maharaj established the cards and everything. He brought the cards from Mathura, and it was settled. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj was severely against it, because Kaviraj was saying that Prabhupada would die as soon as he write few meters on this car or something like that. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, out of despair, said, Prabhupada, why are you doing this? You why are you creating us so much pain? We know you will die. Why you want to? And then Prabhupada, he considered and said, yes, okay, if it creates so much trouble for you, then I will not go. And said, I just do this to increase your love for me. This anxiety, I increase your love for me. So Srila Prabhupada was expert, acharya, expert, spiritual master. He knew what his disciples, that he was about to leave, and he wanted to create this bond with his disciples, this commitment, which will go for years and years and years. Though it was already there, but he intensified it, and he steered it to the, point of frenzy frenzy of love in his disciples. And of course, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in the center of it. He was basically the central figure in all these pastimes. Okay, so let me read the accounts of the day when that happened, right? When Tamal Krishna Maharaj passed away. Definitely much better than what I remember. March 15 began as the other day during the festival in Mayapur. Sweet and crowded Mangalarati spent wriggling and waving through crowds of devotees, especially around Nrisimhadev's altar, and during Tulasi Puja. Little did anyone know what was to come. During the announcement, I noticed Bibi Govinda Maharaj standing near the microphone. One of the announcements was that 6 devotees in Mauritius had died in car accident. Once the regular announcements were over, Govinda Maharaj took the mic and made the following announcement. Hare Krishna, we've just received news that His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami had been involved in car accident and is unconscious. So we request the devotees to observe 1 minute silence and pray for his well-being. Well, this I didn't know, that I didn't remember that 6 devotees also passed away in Mauritius on the same day. So this is day where devotees, please be very careful. Looks like this is a very auspicious day for devotees to pass away. Just please try not to travel on this day and not do anything which is which can be potentially dangerous. Of course, living in this world is potentially dangerous, and we never know where the threat will come from. But I think we just can try to avoid things which have a higher risk of leaving the body than the others. And of course, now we have the peak of war between Russia and Ukraine, and this is, I pray that all devotees in Ukraine, we all pray that all devotees in Ukraine are safe and Krishna conscious, which they are. They take in so much shelter in Krishna consciousness and holy name and association of devotees and serving devotees. And I don't know how far the preaching going on, but most probably something is there. They definitely have a lot of online courses going on and education. Anyway, our heart goes to devotees in Ukraine who are under this absolutely crazy trial times sent by Krishna, and we pray that they all come out alive and healthy and more Krishna conscious than ever. Okay, so we continue. So the Bibi Govinda Maharaj announced that the car accident was happening. My heart sank, Ananda Tirtha Prabhu's writing, again at this news, and I think I swore mentally. The minute of deep prayer passed quickly as Maharaja and other senior devotees left the temple quickly to the accident site. That morning a special energy seized everyone in the temple room. The japa period was unusually intense, and the devotees stayed put in the temple and took shelter of the holy names. praying for Maharaja's well-being. Looking back, it reminds me of how, when Arishtasura entered Vrindavan, the frightened gopis immediately took shelter of Krishna by hugging Tamal trees, no pun intended, which reminded them of Krishna in the same way we took shelter of the holy name at that time of crisis. At 6:30 a.m., Sridhar Swami began a loud, prayerful kirtan in front of Lord Nrisimhadev's altar. He sang the Nrisimha prayers at least 3 times. By Darshanarati 7 a.m., about 100 devotees were participating in the kirtan. At 7:30, just before Radha Madhava's darshan, Sridhar Maharaj took the microphone. He spoke in a sad, emotional-laden voice. Hare Krishna, I have a very sad announcement to make. His Holiness, His Divine Grace, Tamal Krishna Maharaj has gone back to Krishna. Immediately, several ladies began wailing, and hearts of hundreds of devotees dropped simultaneously. Nrisimha Maharaj then made the announcement in Chinese for the benefit, quote-unquote, of the Taiwanese devotees visiting Mayapur. The Darshan Arati Parikrama and Guru Puja passed by in a blur as our emotion flew in different directions, digesting the shocking news with all their ramifications. The Taiwanese devotees sat around the temple in small groups chanting tearfully. Sitaram Lakshman Prabhu from Perth caught my arm and asked if he should phone Perth to inform the devotees there. He was sobbing so much I had to ask him to repeat himself several times before I understood what he was saying. I too was crying. Gone was the usual frivolous eating and shopping scene in the courtyard, the lax socializing and easygoing mood. Everyone realized this was a momentous occasion. Once again, the only shelter was the holy name, Namabinache Nahikoara, Chaudo Bhuvana Mage. There is nothing but the holy name in all the 14 words. The kirtan never stopped that day. Prahlad Nrisimha Prabhu led the Parikrama Kirtan. Then His Holiness Prabha Vishnu Maharaj led Guru Puja and Kirtan all the way till 10:30. Then His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj continued, and later Dinabandhu Prabhu and others kept the Kirtan going till the temple closed at 1 p.m. Devotees chanted, danced, and cried in front of Shri Radha Madhava. During the Guru Puja, I called Narasimha Maharaj aside and took down a brief message from him about the events to be announced on email. I said it immediately, as many devotees as possible worldwide could be informed promptly and join the mood of remembrance and glorification of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. At one point, someone announced that all disciples of Tamal Krishna Maharaj should go to Bhakticharu Swami's room for a meeting. Bhakticharu Maharaj himself was sitting in the temple room and seemed totally distraught. I followed devotees up and attended the first of many sessions of glorification of Maharaj. This was unofficial and not so well attended, but it was charged with glorification of Maharaj in the mood of separation from a great Vaishnava. I was inspired to try and type the speeches, but it was a bit too hard to keep up with the speakers, so that came out was a bit messy. I continued going in the next day and managed to send out quite large document to Maharaj's disciples. I felt it was the least I can do to help them in their hour of need. After a couple of hours, Sridhar Maharaj announced that Maharaj's body was going to arrive at the main gate at about 2 p.m. In preparation for the Samadhi ceremony, Bhaktividyapurna Maharaj and crew had readied 2 rooms at the back of the conch building for preparing Maharaja and Vrindavaneshwari's bodies. She had also left her body in the accident, and several other devotees had been injured. Once again, hundreds of devotees gathered in anticipation at the main gate. The kirtan was again raging. Finally, a white temple bus full of weary-looking devotees pulled in the gate and drove slowly down the road to the temple, parking in front of Conch building. I went upstairs to get a better view. It was sickening to see Maharaja's pale, lifeless body being stretched out of the van and carried to the room through jostling crowds. Mataji's body was also taken to another room for cleaning. About an hour passed, during which time the kirtan continued outside the room. Blank-faced devotees milled around in all directions like lost sheep. The wails of lamentation of a Bengali girl hardly 14 years old and just initiated by Maharaj a few days previously were particularly heart-rending. When Maharaj was carried into the temple for the first final darshan of Shri Radha Madhava and for the devotees' final darshan of His Divine Grace, navigating the crowds with the palanquin was a real challenge. Maharaj's body was kept for some time on the altar in front of Panchatattva to give everyone chance to touch his feet for the last time. At this point, I spied in the crowd my friend Radha Krishna Prabhu, a disciple of Maharaja, whom I hadn't seen for several years. He had just arrived. in Mayapur and heard the news of his Guru Maharaja's departure. I couldn't look at his shocked and sickened face. At this point, I slipped away from the temple to see what was happening with Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. I knew her quite well, and she was a close friend of my mother's. She was always cheerful, very Krishna conscious. I felt I ought to attend her last rite. Her body was just being brought out of the room. It was carried by stretcher to the bank of the Ganga via Big Kitchen Gate. A small group of about 25 friends and well-wishers accompanied her, singing loudly. Several were crying. Some devotees had already prepared wood for her pyre. More onlookers gathered as Gaurav Hari and the company dug a shallow hole in the soft Ganga mat and stacked the wood for burning. Ramai Swami and Prabhavishnu Swami GBCs for her native New Zealand were also in attendance. The time came to place the body on top, and I helped move it from the stretcher to the pyre. I stepped on the mattress on which she had been lying and was dismayed to find the sole of my foot covered in blood. Her body was just being cleaned and had only been in the mattress for a short time, which revealed the extent of her injuries. Her husband, Kalasamvara Prabhu, who had been injured in accident, was there to perform her last rites. He was bandaged in several places and using crutches. He struggles bravely to circumambulate the pyre and nearly tripped over the soft mud a couple times. That he had to carry a burning stick at the same time made it even more difficult in the presence of a crowd of about 100 devotees and onlookers. he lit her pyre. We all watched the flames rise quickly and consumed the body of a great Vaishnavi. It was the most auspicious of places and the most auspicious of situations, with so many devotees chanting the holy names of the Lord and praying for her. We all trust Her Grace Vrindavaneshwari Devi Dasi attained the supreme destination. There was no time for further reflection, however. Maharaja's Samadhi ceremony was still to be performed. Evening was already approaching, and lights had been put up near the Samadhi pit. Hundreds of devotees accompanied the palanquin carrying his body from the temple to Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi for last darshan. In retrospect, it would seem that he is now having eternal darshan of Srila Prabhupada, but we who are left here are bereft of his darshan. The procession slowly descended the Samadhi steps and pushed through the crowds to the freshly dug pit. It was a chaotic scene, with hundreds of people clustered around trying to peer into the pit and see the last rites. Many were looking on from the top of Samadhi. I couldn't get near, and I don't know exactly what happened. The kirtan was still raging, as it had been since 6:30 a.m., about 12 hours now, with only an hour's break in between. Mahavishnu Swami looked like he could go on all night. Once the Samadhi ceremony was over, everyone respectfully circumambulated the mound of dirt, making Maharaja's resting place. Then slowly everyone began to disperse. At least in the body. In spirit, I think everybody was elevated to the transcendental platform for the days afterwards. By now, it was already dark, and as the rules go, the devotees involved in handling the body went to bathe in Ganga with all their clothes. I hadn't eaten a bite all day, and neither had many others. After bathing, I managed to scrouge a bit of prasadam at the deflated Gurukul get-together been held that evening. Several times I passed by Samadhi site and saw devotees still gathered, chanting and praying there till maybe 10 p.m. The next day was another one surcharged with super spiritual emotions. The whole morning and the next days too was reserved for glorification of Maharaja and Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. The pitiful, teary speeches of his disciples and god brothers, and soul-stirring bhajans in the mood of separation, and the somber mood of reflection and contemplation all created an atmosphere unlike any I have ever experienced. It was the most spiritual experience I have ever had. Even today, whenever I look back at those days, petty troubles and desires seem to melt away into insignificance. And whenever I pass by Maharaja's rapidly evolving Samadhi, I'm struck by pangs of sadness and sobriety, and my dull consciousness is immediately elevated, at least for a short time. I know that many devotees have similar feelings after having attended Maharaja's disappearance festival. Who can estimate his potency? Not even after his passing, he is changing. Who can estimate his potency? That even After his passing, he is changing the hearts and lives of even those who hardly knew him. I pray that my mind has been permanently turned away from the wicked tendencies, at least a fraction after witnessing the glorious departure of Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj. There are so many lessons to be learned from the devotees' remembrance of Maharaja. Rather than futilely trying to describe them, I recommend all readers to directly listen to the homages and eulogies given by Maharaja's god brothers, god sisters, and disciples. They are all available for free downloading at the following website: www.tkgtm.com frameset.htm. Anyway, the link will be left also under this video. I guarantee you an unforgettably purifying experience. I'll end this description with a verse describing the greatness of a Vaishnava. Akshnot palam tvadrisha darshanam hi tanoh palam tvadrisha gata sangah jiva palam tvadrisha kirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. O devotee of the Lord, to see you is the perfection of the eyes, to touch your body is the perfection of body activities, and to glorify your quality is the perfection of the tongue, for it's very rare to find a pure devotee like you. Hari Bhakti Sukthadaya 13.2, quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 2061. I hope that you have gained something from my attempt to describe Maharaja's glorious departure. Hare Krishna, in service to Vaishnavas, Ananda Tirthadas. Yes, this is very, very deep and very personalized experience. And as I was reading it, it definitely brought me to another level of consciousness just from reading it. So I hope this audio today will help those who listen to it too. And I was thinking to read more about Maharaj, but I think it's a good point to finish this episode of Sacred Space podcast, because it build up the momentum by this letter of Nanda Tirtha Prabhu, and I think we can all meditate and listen. The link is there, glorifications of Maharaj. You can find it in description, and those devotees who want to continue to be absorbed in remembrances of Tamal Krishna Maharaj can do so. Jai, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Please support our channel by taking 1 second of your precious time to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.